Welcome into Nachos and Analysis. This is kind of different than what we normally do. Me and Drew are kind of known for doing a podcast, and then we'll post some clips on our channel, but we're doing this one straight for YouTube. This is 427 on December 29th, so this is directly after the Gator Bowl victory over Kentucky. We just kind of wanted to give some raw thoughts and reactions to the game. So, Drew, how was the Gator Bowl experience for you?
Watched it with my sister, and I looked at her midway through the fourth quarter and told her, I'm like, I'm going to be mad if Clemson loses this game, because in the third quarter, I resided to the fact that, all right, Clemson's going to lose this game. And I mentally prepared myself for it. Then we go up and let Kentucky take the lead right back. And I was about to be really mad. I'd already come to terms that we might lose. And then you give me a little bit of hope, and but ultimately the Tigers pull it out, 38-35 victory. It was not pretty.
No, not at all. And I was kind of on the same page with you where, especially after the kickoff return for a touchdown to open the second half, when is the last time we saw Clemson score 11 points on offense in a half? I was not very confident going into that. But there is one pretty interesting thing that happened because although I did bet the under for our picks this week, 24 total points combined in quarters 1 through 3. 42 combined in the fourth quarter. I think there was also 4 lead changes and 4 turnovers. Quite the fourth quarter. It was very exciting. Just felt to me that like Clemson would get up and then immediately like Kentucky get a big play and get right back. And just happy we were able to get the last word, because even going into that last drive, I wasn't very confident. But that last drive is promising, to say the least, for Cade's development.
Yeah, absolutely. And the biggest thing was something that we really hadn't out of this defense, was the amount of big plays that they gave up today. And I think a lot of that could be contributed to the lack of experience there in the secondary. You had a lot of young guys filling in today. I see in your show notes you have Shelton Lewis here. He had a rough day, but I think he redeemed himself there with that final interception to seal the game. The big plays is what really hurt Clemson today.
Yeah, I mean, and speaking of that last interception by Shelton Lewis, the whole time while they were lining up for that play, I was just replaying in my head the Alabama Auburn game where Auburn rushes 3, drops 8 back in coverage, and lets Alabama score in the last second to win. And I saw us with 4 down linemen and everybody else back, and I was like, oh my God, this is going to happen. This is not going to be good. But we were able to get pressure with those 4, force Devin Leary to step up in the pocket and make a bad throw. And yeah, Shelton Lewis was in the right place at the right time for that pick. I was very hard on Shelton Lewis throughout this game on Twitter. Also, unapologetically, I'll say, because if you watched the first touchdown that Kentucky scores on the end around, Shelton Lewis just gets caught looking in the backfield, doesn't set the edge on the backside, and the jet sweep goes right around him. He also gets beat multiple times, and he does have one good play on like a out route that forces a 4th down, I believe. So Shelton Lewis, ups and downs, kind of tells the story of this game. And also Cade Klubnik is kind of right in that wheelhouse also, because he had a rough game, but he also did show some flashes throughout the game where he made some certain throws or decisions where I might not have agreed with it, but he makes the play and gets the ball where it needs to be. But then also there's some questionable decisions in that as well, such as, the multiple intentional groundings that are just seems to be just something in his skill set at this point. But I think that's a lot of offensive line blame can go on that, because he doesn't have a lot of time when they send pressure.
It doesn't matter if they were rushing or if they just sent 4 guys. Like they were struggling, and that's its own problem in and of itself. But Cade, I feel like, holds on to the ball too long. I know in our group chat that your dad and some people pointed out that there's guys running wide open and he's holding the ball and holding it long enough to the point where they're not open anymore, and it forces him to put himself in position where he's throwing these intentional groundings or potentially throwing interceptions. I do like he was better with the ball today. I don't put that interception that he did throw on him. I believe it was tipped. There was a lot of pressure. A defensive end was coming unblocked from behind him, but a lot of work needs to be done with Cade Klubnik. I know I posed this question in our group chat, but the Cade Klubnik that Dabo Sweeney describes and envisions, he eventually transitions into. Will we, as Clemson fans, ever see that Cade Klubnik?
I think we saw it on the last drive, actually. That was quick decision making. He was under pressure and he was able to make the right throws when it really mattered the most. And that's why that last drive is almost, I mean, obviously the stakes are nowhere near the same, but it reminded me very much so of the Let's Go Be Legendary drive against Alabama in 2016, where you get the ball with under 2 minutes left and have to drive down, do or die, end of the season. This is how you want to be remembered. So Cade made some really good decisions on that drive, and the play calling was pretty good. But yeah, I think it was a really good showing last drive to leave the field on the 2023 season.
Also, the drive that wrapped up the third quarter that ultimately ended up in a touchdown at the beginning of the fourth quarter, that was a huge drive in Clemson getting back into this ball game. I believe it was 11 or 12 plays. It took up a lot of time. Good play calling. Cade looked good on that play, and like he did so many times today, Phil Maffa punched it in. Finished the day with 4 rushing touchdowns. I believe he only had 9 carries on the day.
Wow, I didn't even see that he only had 9 carries, but he scored on almost half of those. What a great game from
Mhm.
Maffa. I really think we're going to get Maffa back for next year, but that kind of brings me to something else I wanted to talk about, something very unfortunate that happened in the game. Will Shipley, when we really needed him to step up and he makes a really good kickoff return, somersaults out of bounds, comes up really poorly on a knee. It really hurt me to watch it because you can just tell that type of movement where your body keeps moving but your legs don't. That's like ligament damage right there. And if I'm really torn about this because if I was Will Shipley's friend or family, I would be telling him you got to go to the league because you got to get your money as a running back. Like just the nature of being a running back in football nowadays, you have to go get in. I've talked about it on this channel before, so go look at some of our other videos about this topic. But yeah, I also I hate it for Will Shipley that he has to end his Clemson career if he does end his career after this game being carted off the field. So he deserves way more than that. He put his heart into this team, and we rode his back for the majority of his career. We would be nowhere near the amount of wins we have if Will Shipley was not on our team. So really hope. Part of me hopes he comes back just to give a good cap off to his Clemson career, but that's selfish. Unselfishly, I think he's got to go to the league and try to get some money while he can. But that also, sorry,
Yeah.
the injury makes it kind of harder to do that because you're going to be in recovery, not being able to prepare for the combine and pro days, stuff like that. So as long as if this injury is as serious as it seemed on the field, that kind of makes me lean towards Shipley coming back because he's not going to have that opportunity to impress the scouts in the skill exercises.
Combine and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not a fan of where we're at currently with opt outs, but that is just where we are. That's college football now. And like you mentioned, players have got to look out for um, their careers. And what happened with Will Shipley is a prime example why I don't think you should be upset with a player if they choose to opt out of a bowl game. In reality, this game means absolutely nothing. Fel Scouts would not care if Will Shipley sat out of this game. I mean, I applaud Tyler Davis and this he made this week about wanting to finish what he started, and that's admirable. But in the instance of what just happened with Will Shipley, that could have a huge impact on his NFL career and the money that he makes in the future. So it's not that serious. Hopefully, it's one of those situations, kind of like Trevor Lawrence a couple weeks ago, where it looked really, really bad on the field, and then he was back out there the next week. So we'll just have to wait and see what the prognosis is.
Yeah, it's too early to tell, but it is really hard to watch, especially for somebody who meant so much to the team and the teams meant so much to him. But kind of transitioning a little bit away from that, unless you had something else to mention about the offense, I kind of wanted to talk about Jonathan White's. I saw it. I think it was a pretty funny tweet. Our boy Chris Phillips, recent rebranded to SEC Unfiltered. He was kind of annoying me today with his Kentucky Clemson tweets, but he put out one good one that I thought where he mentioned that something about playing in Columbia made Jonathan White's Justin Tucker. And
Yeah, I saw that.
I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just the confidence boost that he got from, being the hero of the day about a month ago, I guess it was. But Jonathan White's got lucky on that one, 53-yard or something. I would never have expected Dabo to try to kick this, and bounces off the crossbar, and never seen anything like that in a game before. So really incredible stuff.
Ultimately ended up being the difference in the game. Tigers with a 3-point victory there, and very rarely do you see Wink bounce into your favor there. As soon as it hit, I was like, I think that went in, but I was waiting. The referees were slightly delayed with putting their hands up, whether it was good or not. But that was a huge part of the game there.
Yeah, and watching it, I thought it was going to come up short. Like as soon as it hit the arc of the kick, I was like, "Oh, this might hit the front of the end zone." But he had enough leg on it barely. He didn't have another 6 inches on.
I believe on the broadcast right before he lined up to kick it, they said his career long was 50, which I believe he hit in the South Carolina game, and that was, I think, a 53-yarder. So that's a career long for him.
Yeah, just great stuff from Jonathan White's. Another great story to end the season on, with him coming out of retirement mid-season and kind of being the savior to the end of our season. The last 2 games wouldn't have been in the games if it wasn't for Jonathan White's. Also, I wanted to talk about one other player on defense who had an incredible game, Barrett Carter. With the absence of Jeremiah Trotter opting out for the bowl game, Barrett Carter had to step up, and I honestly didn't think Barrett Carter was going to be back next year, but got that surprise a couple weeks ago that he announced he would be there, and he really was there. He was one of the only players on the defense that showed up for the entire game, but multiple batted passes, multiple pass breakups, and interception, forced fumbles, fumble recoveries. What did he not do in this game? Barrett Carter probably should be MVP.
Another guy that you could throw in that conversation, I did mention Phil Moffa. I do want to correct myself. He had 11 carries, not 9, but
Okay.
still 11 carries, 68 yards, 4 touchdowns. Another guy, I know we just switched over to defense, but I was just scrolling through ESPN and saw his stats. Especially early on in this game, Jake Brenning still played a big part in this offense.
That reminds me of one play, kind of that loops me back to what I was talking about. Cade Klubnik making throws that I probably wouldn't advise, but he ended up making the right play. There was one rollout where he was kind of running out of time on the rollout and hits Burning Stool over the top of a defender, kind of has to float the ball over him. And it's a great throw. That's, one of the advantages of having a 6'6" tight end out there. You can kind of throw it up for him and let him get it. But really big game for both of those guys. Also, Khalil Barnes back on defense. Sorry, we just keep flip-flopping all around. But Khalil Barnes had a forced fumble and a fumble recovery too, I believe. Had another great game. He kind of held down the secondary because with the absence of Nate Wiggins, we were struggling in the secondary. But that kind of makes me think also about, Nate Wiggins opting out, with your points about opt-outs. If Nate Wiggins would have played in this game and had an injury similar to Will Shipley, Nate Wiggins is going to be a first-round draft pick. Like, you can't blame him for putting his career first. Like, he only gets one opportunity at it.